Hi, and thanks for watching this video. Now, this isn't my usual content for this channel. This is my eulogy for my grandmother, and it was something that I was very, very proud of, and I'm very glad that it was recorded in audio form. I wanted to share this with my family and friends. Now, it starts off with a little bit of Father Phil talking, and that's important because I tended to riff off of something that he said in this introduction, so please enjoy.
We know that heaven is not a mansion. We know it's the love of God, the presence of God. But Jesus gives us this image of a large mansion with many rooms. And that's not a bad image to have. And St. Peter would say to Dolly, "It's either Doris or Dolly, but welcome home." Both of you. So I don't know which room would she go to first. And so some of you would know what she might go to. What would you say? Which room would Dolly go to first?
Gardens.
The gardens. Go out the back and check out the garden. Yeah. I'd like to call on Michael to say a few words.
She was Doris, she was Dolly, but to us she was Grandma. She always preferred if we called her Grandma, so. For most of my life, I've only had one grandparent. Grandma Ledano was gone before I was born. Grandpa Ledano died in 1981. We lost Grandpa Winter in 1984. Since that time, I only had one grandma, and she was very special to us, not just because she was the only one, as you will hear today. My mom tells me that Grandma babysat us a lot as a kid. I don't remember this very much, but I do remember that she was my favorite babysitter. I can remember that I would look forward to those nights that Grandma would come to take care of us. I also remember visiting her house a lot. She had board games there that we didn't have, like Mousetrap and Clue. The idea was that they wanted us to have special games that we could only play at Grandma's house, but we didn't need special games to enjoy those visits. She let us watch the Flintstones. She let us run around the yard. She and Grandpa took us to the Welland Canal to see the big ships going through the locks. It seemed like there was never anything boring going on there, even to a kid. It was always fun to visit Grandma's house. My dad and I, we'd pick carrots from her garden. Remember when I said she was going to go to the garden room? We'd pick the carrots. We'd get scolded. My sister and I never took her scolding very seriously. We heard that Grandma could be strict, but she never was with us. Most of my memories, though, were from adulthood. I suppose adulthood started for me at the end of high school and moving on to university. I attended Wilfrid Laurier, which was just a short drive away from her house. On Thursdays, I had my full slate of classes from morning till night, history, psychology, and then anthropology in the evenings. I had a short break before anthropology, and it was too long of a drive to go all the way home for dinner. So I instead drove to her house for dinner. She would make my favorite, pork chops in mushroom soup. That was a special meal that only she made, and the fact is I haven't had it since. It was like a treat. She'd offer me something for dessert, and then I'd be running back to class again. For Grandma, those visits were always too short, but classes were awaiting. In 1997, we took a special trip out west with Grandma and her sister Aunt Marie to see Aunt Linda and Cousin Jeffrey. This was a special trip for me. Work didn't want me to take a week off in the fall, but I insisted. I really wanted to go with my grandma. That trip was everything I wanted to be. She was a little bit slower moving, and I used to make sure everybody stopped and waited for her to catch up with us at the airport. If I saw her lagging behind, I would stop and shout, "Wait for the grandma." Everybody would stop, and she'd catch up, maybe 4 or 5 times before we got to our gate. That was an excellent trip. We made daily trips out, shopping, to the mountains, and just relaxing, reading books at home. Some of my happiest memories are visiting the mountains out west, but that trip was special because Grandma and I really kind of took care of each other that time. I think one of the best ways that we spent time together was actually driving to the cottage. I would pick her up at her place in Waterloo, load the car with her planters and her bags and a pie, whatever she had, and we'd make the 2-hour trip together. I would pick the music, something that she would like. "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" was a favorite of hers. She liked the song "You Are My Sunshine." Whatever we picked, we talked the whole way there. She would point out all the flowers along the way. Remember when I said that she would go to the garden room? She would point out all the flowers along the way, which I couldn't stop to look at because I was driving. I always found that funny because Grandma didn't drive, and she didn't realize that I had my eyes on the road. Those were some special trips, just the two of us. Grandma always supported Dr. Catherine's music career, even as it got more experimental. Catherine, will you ever play some of those songs that I like? Catherine wasn't into playing anything that wasn't original and eclectic, but Grandma kept going to those shows anyway. Very few people can understand that kind of music. She will agree with me on that. But Grandma went loyally with only the kind of loyalty that only a grandparent has. At the age of 96, Grandma endured a global pandemic. The isolation really bothered her, but we did porch visits every other weekend. When Uncle Don died, it really affected her. Suddenly she was living alone. She won 2 battles with COVID, which was unbelievable. It felt like Grandma was bulletproof, given all the hardship she endured. First Uncle Don, then his cat. That was enough loss for a lot of people to just pack it in. But she was tough as nails. COVID couldn't take her down. Several close calls couldn't take her down. She bounced back every time. In 2024, she had what I will call her final wish. Grandma loved food. A good meal of meat and potatoes was all she ever wanted. Some of you might have heard her talking about wanting meat and potatoes. She always told us how much she craved a good old-fashioned home-cooked feast, and she got it that day on Christmas 2024. She was pretty frail by that point. It was a struggle to move her from her home to ours, up the stairs to the dining room. There was one moment frozen in time where I thought we would have to back down and take her back home, but we made it. We made it up the stairs, and she had her last family meal with us, and it was a very special moment. She declined after that for 7 months. That trip fulfilled her final wish, but I believe it also took the last of her strength from her. I think she had a hard realization that she couldn't come and go anymore. There was no way that she could go and visit Catherine at her new home. There was no way that she'd see the cottage again. But it was a very special night, and she still made it to 101. I don't think she had any regrets. All of us went to see her for her 101 birthday, 101st birthday. She enjoyed some lunch. She had some coffee, and she had a nice rest afterwards. She was thinking of her sister, Aunt Marie, that day. Towards the end, it was difficult to see her decline, but her birthday was the last time that I saw her. Even though she had many close calls, it was still a shock to me when she finally went on July 30th, 2025. I'm glad she made it to 101. I really wanted that to happen because it's such a big milestone. You know, they make birthday cards for 100, but they don't make birthday cards for 101. Fun fact. She was always very special in life and in death, always full of surprises right to the end. She had the spirit of a fighter, a well of feistiness that most of us will never find. I miss her phone calls, and I miss seeking her advice. I used to say that Grandma was the only one in the family that understood me, and that's gone now. My confidant is gone. The one person who always knew what I was going through. The memory remains, and I will always be grateful for my special grandmother that lived to 101 years old. They always say this when someone is gone, but there truly will never be another Dolly Winter.